see who's paying attention. Alright, so a little bit faster. One, two, three. Let's play the hi-hat on 2 and 4, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice and gentle notes. And one more tempo. 120. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, cool. Let's go back down to, let's say, 90 BPM and play still eighth note triplets, but doubles, double strokes. Double strokes. Right, right, left, left. Interesting. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. Right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. Okay, let's try to play. We'll play the same thing, even maybe a bit slower, 80 BPM. This is a good exercise, right? Because for many reasons. The reason why we have rudiments is because they allow us to then phrase things in a much more comfortable way. That's really why rudiments exist. They give you more solutions, mechanically speaking, to then execute ideas that you might have. Because if we only have singles, it's just like trying to drive a car always in first. It works if you want to just, start the car, and then eventually you're killing it. You're overdoing it, right? So doubles have that, because of the rebound aspect of it. I don't need to say that. What I do need to mention, though, is that most people practice doubles always in a way, let's call it in a frame of work that allows the doubles to resolve with the pulse, meaning either groups of 2 or 4. Right, right, left, left, so that could be 2 groups, or right, right, left, left being 1 group. When we have that then exposed to a subdivision of 3, the brain doesn't like that. Right? The brain really doesn't like that. The fact that we are using a sticking that is a natural 4, resolves every 4 strokes, but it's not resolving with the beat. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. So, let's try the same thing again. This time, let's play a quarter note with our feet. It can be both feet in unison. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2. Okay, and we'll play 8th note triplets, but as double strokes. We'll do that with a click, but that's the exercise, all right? All right, so 1, 2, 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a... Keep going, keep going. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Everyone can feel how much more difficult that is compared to playing the same sticking in 16th note, right? 1E and a 3 and a 3 and a 4E and a 1E. That's easy because it resolves with the bass drum. That's annoying. Right, because it doesn't resolve with anything seemingly, right? It just isn't. Where's the the resolution point? Well, it's there obviously, but it's only at the 1 of each bar. So that's a long cycle compared to how we usually perceive rudiments. Right, we see them as smaller cells. On the other hand, it's almost like that idea that you've been practicing, right? You've got that cycle of 3 notes, because it's in a subdivision of 2. It takes a lot longer to resolve back to 1. If it's a grouping of 3 notes, it takes 3 bars. If it's a grouping of 5 notes, it takes 5 bars. If it's a grouping of 9 notes, it takes 9 bars. So, yeah, welcome to ideas that are larger than 1 beat, right? So, and it's by the way, the reason I was smiling when we were playing this. Did you see what the issue was? And this is of value for everyone because it's a very natural thing that happens to all of us. It happened to me for sure. Did you see what happened when you were playing the doubles? But did you realize what you were actually playing by any chance? No, but what was it? 16th. No, you were playing triplets. But you were playing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Something gave in, right? In that case, it was the sticking, not the subdivision. Right? But you see why I'm bringing that up, because your brain is constantly trying to realign things. This is in 3. Stop messing around. Right? Your brain kind of goes like, "What are you doing with those 2s over there?" And automatically and subconsciously. It's super this exercise is so basic that it's annoying that it's so difficult, right? You're playing doubles and triplets. Shouldn't be that it shouldn't be that much of an ordeal to get them going, right? You wouldn't. So let's make it even worse. Paradiddles. Single paradiddles. Not in, but as 8th note triplets. In 4/4. Okay, 4/4, but subdivision is 8th note triplets. The sticking is paradiddles though, single paradiddles. Right, left, right, left, right. Good old paradiddle. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. We will use We will use the no. We'll use the screen actually. I'm gonna write it down because I don't have it written down. You guys can just try that out, right? So try to first expose what I would do in my own practice. I wouldn't try to play the feet straight away with it. I would simply try to play the single paradiddle, but as I'm counting eighth note triplets. So I'm gonna force the subdivision. It's almost like I'm starting with the sticking, and then I'll force the subdivision, against it. In other words, I'm gonna use muscle memory to my advantage. We know the paradiddle, sweet. Tick that box and start and use that as your, just to start the engine. Let's say. Okay, and then I've got that going. I'm gonna try to count eighth note triples on top of that. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Does that make sense? But you see what happened? Singles, by the way. The double, immediately the brain ditched the double. And that's gonna happen to all of us. It's not just you. That's going to happen to every single one of. But these are great exercises that change the way we look at these stickings, which is a very interesting thing, right? And then they can be used in context as drum fills, and then. All right, so I'm going to write it down, so then we can also have the visual.
As well, you can count a non-paradiddle and subdivide it indirectly.
Say again.
You can play the non-paradiddle and use different subdivisions over it.
Triplets, quintuplets.
Yeah.
It's whatever you want. Stickings are stickings. And that was for me a very, very important lesson that I learned later than what I wanted to learn. Stickings are not rhythms. They're not subdivisions. They don't have speeds attached to them. Like they're just stickings. For me, for example, doubles were always fast and 16th notes. I always had that association to doubles. Right? Doubles are fast and they're 16th notes. Shut up with that, all the stuff, man. Paradiddles were always kind of like, well, they were always 16th notes and, 100 BPM. That's where they live, right? And to be exposed, for example, to the idea of playing a single paradiddle as triplets was super awkward because I didn't want to, again, subconsciously, I didn't want to accept that idea that he wasn't 16th notes, that he wasn't organized in groups of 4 notes according to the pulse, all that stuff. Even just inverting paradiddles, which is something that I do a lot with you guys, just inverting paradiddles, terrible. I didn't like that at all. I was just like, no, it's right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. That's how paradiddle goes. Because, you spend 5 years even, not without being exposed to those alternatives, you become conditioned. Like, that's how it works. And then someone tells you like, well, not really. It's difficult. But, one plows ahead and eventually I got there, so let me just write this down for you guys. Let's see. Okay, so you see the paradiddle, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, right. Now, the cool thing is that it takes 2 bars to resolve. Back again to large ideas, right? Now, the really difficult bit will then to actually play the paradiddle with those accents on the first of each 4. So still respecting the dynamic pattern of a paradiddle. But 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and and the 3 and the 4 and the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the. That's the difficult part. Okay. Anyhow, that's just a fun little exercise that you guys can challenge yourselves with. But we won't make that the focus of today's session, otherwise we'll just get stuck here. So, back to our jazz independence exercises. Last week we worked on the left hand, right, against the swing pattern. We did most, if not all, of the letters there. Today, bass drum. Okay, so we'll still have this as the ostinato. This time is the bass drum that's going to be gridding. Okay. Right, so here's an example. That would be again the first 3 patterns, right? But instead of snare drum, reed bass drum. Right. The numbers on the ands and on the earths. Okay. Okay, so of course let's start. Let's play the first one. Bass drum on the numbers. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Four, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Hi-hat, 2 and 4. That's the one. Now these exercises are really important because eventually we'll sort of combine the snare drum independence exercises with bass drum. For example, 1 bar of each. Let's do that with the first one, which is simple. 1 bar of each, meaning 1 bar of each limb playing the same letter. For starters, then they can actually play different letters as well. So, but for example, let's say you play the first bar you play with your left hand, and then you move it down the same pattern down to the bass drum. So you would have letter B, etc., etc. And you can only, let's say, half a bar of each. Ja ja da dum dum do ja ja da dum 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 da di da di dum di da di da. 1 beat of each. Da dum da dum da dum da dum da dum da. And that's how they develop all those crazy skills they have, those jazz drummers, those crazy people. It's just systematic practice, right? None of that stuff is accidental. They're obsessed, right, with note placement and displacements and permutations and experimenting with like hybrid combinations They really are. Like, we don't see it in their playing because they are such masters at that craft of blending it all together. But in practice, they are just obsessed with that. Tony Williams, I was just talking about him earlier, right? Tony Williams was obsessed with the idea of unisons, of all things. He would just like grab a reading book and play all limbs together. He would sight read the book, but with all limbs together. He was obsessed with that idea of all limbs should be able to read. Well, that's obsession right there. He's not trying to be cool. He's just being a student of the craft, right? He was obsessed about using rudiments. Alan Dawson's, for example. Alan Dawson's was a legendary drummer and drum teacher. He created the, I don't want to butcher the name of the exercise, but I believe it was the Alan Dawson's rudimental warm-up. Excuse me if that's not the actual title of the exercise, but anyway, it was a rudimental warm-up. So basically what he did, he would play like a variety, like I believe it were like over 20 rudiments. It was a routine that included 20 different rudiments, but all swung, including flamed-based rudiments, but they all had swing. He changed the rhythms effectively, right? Yeah. No one's trying to be cool there. And he would play them with brushes. So you can imagine those double stroke rolls with swing with brushes. God, that's nasty. It's difficult to pull those one off with a tool that has no rebound, right? Because everyone loves to play their doubles like this. Now try that with brushes, right? Nothing happens. You really have to play them. There's no pushing and buzzing. That doesn't do it, right? I like brushes a lot. For technical development, brushes are really, really good because they really teach you how to control the stick, meaning, that part, right? The handle. Just like that. So let's do the 1 bar of each. 1 bar, the snare playing on the numbers. 1 bar is the bass drum that plays on the numbers. Spangalang over here, 2 and 4 over there. Jesus Christ is the Lord. Let's go. Everyone's going to become religious after this one. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. All right, snare drum first. Da, ta, ti, ta. Bass, snare. Snare, bass, snare, bass, snare, bass. Snare, bass, snare, bass. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Do 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 do. ready to convert? No? These are difficult but very important exercises. By the way, let me just make the quick side note that do practice the same idea of, let's call that transposition, right? You're playing with the snare, you transpose it down to the bass drum back and forth. In the rock and funk and whatever context, don't just think that this is a jazz thing, right? It's the grid. It's the grid. It's a no style exercise. It's genreless. All right, so now let's focus again on the bass drum only. Middle triplet. Middle triplet. Okay, so now we've got the bass drums playing on the ands. 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1. And then once we feel comfortable with that, we'll do the same thing. Etc. etc. All right. A cool one to practice against a shuffle as well. Basically, the bass drum becomes a filler because it occupies that gap. Okay. So let's say 60 seconds for you guys to tap around a little bit, see how that all lines up. We'll do it together. Alright, shall we? Middle triplet. Here we go. Let's do it actually without the click. So let's start by playing the swing. Let's lock that in first. 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Chit, 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 chit. Chit, 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 chit. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. All right. Hey boy. All right, next one. Next one. The bass drum on the Us. 1 and a 2 and a 3. Sorry. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Okay. So now, if you look at the notes there and the alignment of the notes, the second bass drum, okay, will align with the right cymbal. Something over there. Okay. Ch, don't. Those two go together. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. So but you also have the one then on the of 1 and 3, right? Up, 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1. Up, 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 up. Let's do an exercise to help us place that bass drum correctly first. Quarter notes on the right cymbal. Let's just secure the pulse. We'll play that on the so we're still feeling that these are triplets. But we'll only play quarter notes. We can even play on the hi-hats there. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's it. And 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1. Okay, sweet. Everyone's got it locked in. Let's move that right hand over to the right cymbal. We're still going to be playing quarter notes, but this time we'll add the hi-hat on 2 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 quarter notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and up 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, 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 a 1. One, two, three, and four, and one, and two, and 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 three, and four, and one. Okay. It's clear to me that we ought to focus on the left foot. The left foot needs to get itself freed up. By the way, the grid is the way to solve that problem, once again. You know, when was the last time that you tried to play a hi-hat pattern on the E's of a drum beat, or the ands, even the ands, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 2 E and a 4 E and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Or you can play like a when it comes to jazz, same thing. Right? You're gonna have all those hi-hat placements. Same thing, you know, that we would do with the bass drum or left-handed. If only we had 2 lives to practice all this. Alright, but bass drum, where were we? Bass drum on the Us, right? Okay, let's try to now play the swing pattern. We were playing quarters before, now we'll add the ding ding. That's it. 2 more notes. Right? Sorry. That's the wrong one. That's what I meant. And 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And then we can do the one, the 1 bar, because I'm talking, but I'm also looking at your faces, right? So funny, but no, but then we can also do the 1 bar with the left hand, 1 bar with the right foot, right? So you end up with something like this. Ooh. Etc. You get the point. Okay. Okay, so swing over here. Ding, 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 ding. Left foot on 2 and 4. Ding, 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 ding. Bass drum on the don't on the of each beat. So it would be something like this, nice and slowly. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Let's start by playing the swing. One and a two and a three and a four and a boom, 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 uh, 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 da, da, da. Remember, if you can say it, you can play it. Da, 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 da. Ding, 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 ding. Ba, 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 ah, 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 da, 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 Okay. Okay. I feel you. I feel you. I've been there. It's sneaky. Let's move on. We've got roughly 10 minutes left. So let me introduce what the next session will be all about. So now eventually we will be capable to pretty much place bass drum notes or snare drum notes wherever we want, right? Like if we practice the concept of the grid, we'll be able mechanically to do that. What we might not be able to do is then to really combine them freely. Meaning, let's say you have a very simple rhythm to play, and I'm gonna take a couple of photocopies. I'm gonna give you guys some work for you guys to do at home in preparation for the next session. But let's say you've got a very simple rhythm, and and that's basically just your blueprint for you to play, around. That's just for you to base your ideas on, right? Then, if those rhythms are simple, okay, we might be able to reproduce that then both with the bass drum on the left hand whilst we keep the swing going over here. Those rhythms become a little bit more complex. That might become, progressively more challenging to quickly translate a simple one-liner into a groove, a jazz pattern, right? But that can be practiced, and that's. Let me just go take a. This is who doesn't have, by the way. I know you do. The syncopation book. You do, don't you? I think you do. No, blue cover. Do you have that book? That's a good book to have in order to develop vocabulary. It's. I'll show you guys. Yeah. Any of those three books down there would be great books to to develop this. Okay. So let me just 1 minute. I'm gonna take a couple of photocopies.
Say it word now, read it. You get what well, I don't read the book. I am reading the book. What do you mean? Like, they're words. No, they're not. The music. Yeah, words. What are you on about? Well, Egan's. Well, it starts off. It's a Colin Baird in his jazz drum, and it'll do stuff. It'll do stuff on with his hands. So like 16th notes with his hands, and then he plays. Oh, unbelievable! So smooth. It's like jazz trio, and it's like. And then all supervision. So I read 2 pages, like 2 pages a night or something.
Okay, so you got the book there. So you can open on page 38. New. let's take a look at the first bar, right? Just the first bar. If you play it and just read it as you see it, all that is this. That's it. Right? So that's not very jazzy. However, here's what we can do with all these books. When you see an offbeat eighth note, meaning if you see an eighth note on the ends, you're going to assume that to be actually the swung note in the triplet field, the us of the triplet. Okay? So there's a bit of a conversion exercise here, right? Whenever you see this, that pattern, it becomes this. Two eighth notes become eighth note triplet, rest, eighth note triplet. Cool. That's the first step. Then I would start by reading that whole page, now using that new formula, right? So then the first line would be that's the whole of the first line. Okay? I'll do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, da 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 ba 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 4. Alright? That sounds a bit more jazzy. Now you can play. Kind of sounds like, you know, the beginning of what could be a nice little snare drum solo of sorts, right? Plus embellishments, which we will talk about next week. And by the way, that page is literally going to be the page that we will use next week. That's it. Actually, probably just the first line, actually. But I'm going to show you guys how to use that in multiple different ways, still within the jazz idiom. Anyway. So we've got that. So let's say you want to practice that in the context of groove playing. So you want to learn how to play those patterns with your left hand as you keep this going. And then you read that with your left hand. So that would be 1, 2, 3, here we go. Questions so far? All right, I'm going to pause there. Let's do some Q&A. That's the next session setup. That's it. We don't need to go any farther. Let's just do some questions. Concerns? Complaints? What is the meaning of life? Okay, the same can be done with the bass drum, obviously. Right. I hope that at this point I don't need to say that, but same thing is done with the bass drum. So. Right. Same thing. Then you practice that to the swing, bang, bang, relax, bang. Now it gets, I want to know what happened there, but it gets really interesting once we start working on them. Phrasing, let's say, for the sake of simplicity, drum fills, right? You can still use the same kind of information to develop drum fills within the jazz context. For example, why don't we assume those notes to be accents? And underlying will have these, like this single stroke roll eighth note triplet situation going on, right? Then those notes become just accents. Oops, sorry. I'm going to go from the third bar. I messed up there. Ah, wait. That was right, actually. Why am I crashing there? I actually played it correctly. Okay? So that's the same thing, but using accents. Then those accents can become toms. Right? So you would have, like, let's say you're playing, left hand, right hand accents on the floor tom, left hand accents on the high tom, which I don't have here, so I'll use the hi hat. But the first bar would be. That's just the first bar in a loop. Sorry. The second bar would be. The third bar would be. The fourth bar would be. And you put it all together. Then the snare drum notes, we can start doubling them, for example. Or those notes that we actually see there can be flams. You can practice your flams that way. And nothing will ever leave that jazz sort of, context and idiom. It will always be around the same sort of idea, which means what? When you actually start playing jazz tunes, those skills will come out. That's how the brain works. You put it in, and then your brain will be like, I've got more stuff in there that I can now use. And fills start to happen. Right? You start using them. And you become more reactive to the music, which is good, and less exercise-based. Right? Because the more you feed the brain with variations and variations, the more options. Our brains are very good at understanding that eventually we are creating this huge map. It stops being exercise 1, exercise 2, exercise 3. It's a map, right? And when the brain is trying to find itself, like when you're playing a song, and your brain's like, wait a second, I've got this back there I can use now. And it recalls it, bash, right? That's exactly how I felt, like as I progressed, like learning new styles and stuff like that, like stuff that wasn't really natural to me. Jazz being one of them, and there's a variety of other stuff that I learned that I didn't really listen to. I wasn't all that familiar with it. I really had to learn from scratch. I really only felt myself becoming free and comfortable within that genre once I knew a lot of different options, and I had more and more things that I could then, combine, blend together, use half of this, half of that. So it started to become more organic and less, if you only know one groove, you only know one groove and everything's going to sound pretty much the same, right? It's going to be your crutch, that groove. If you only know one drum fill, that's the same problem, right? That's going to be your crutch. You're going to solve all your problems with the same tool. You're going to try to build a house with a hammer. Well, you might get there, but the house is not going to be very pretty. A lot of dents. A lot of loose screws, because what you really need is a Phillips. And you just, or you only have a Phillips, and every now and then you need a ruler. It's the same thing with music, right? Tools are tools, and they exist for a reason, right? All right, guys. So that's today. Next week, if you remember, bring this one back, right? Just the one that I gave you now. Because we're going to focus on that. We're going to do all this stuff basically that I just described. Yeah. And then, of course, look at this. This book has 63 pages of exercises. I can show you at least 5 to 6 different ways to play each bar. Each page has 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 40 bars on average. What's that? 180? We can convert that page into 180 ideas. Times 63. Do the math. That's options right there. That's a lot of tools there. Alright guys, boom. Let's grab some lunch.